What up to my man? See the
What's good,
socialite,
man? What's
man.
good, man? What's good?
The legend, man. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I'm
It's been a
excited,
long time
man.
coming.
I'm
I
excited.
am too.
Been a long time coming. We just want to invite everybody in. This is our first edition of the Gold Standard. As you may know from myself, James, and my man C right here, we've been in the hospitality, nightclub, bar, restaurant industry for well over 20 years, really more than that combined experience. And so we decided to do this because we're seeing a lot of changes in the industry. There's a lot of strategies that aren't being implemented or used right now that we want to talk about. And these are the top of the line strategies, the creme de la creme. And that's why we call this the gold standard, because as you know, in hospitality, you want to be the best in order to attract the best. And so I'm excited to have you on, see, to be my partner in this, man. I couldn't see me doing this without anybody else but you, especially with your knowledge and I'm start calling you International C now, man. You all across the globe, bro.
We're moving around a little bit. Yeah, man. Got that island vibe on me.
Yeah, man. So, if you don't mind, just kind of let people know, especially my audience that, may not be familiar with you. I'm from the New Jersey, New York area, originally from the South. It's actually where we met in Atlanta. And so I just want my audience and the new audience of people just to kind of know some about you and your experience, man, what you got going on.
Yeah, I'm a ATLian by way of Alabama. I'm Montgomery, Alabama native. I moved to Atlanta full time in '04 and jumped right into it. I started out in the hospitality industry, just kind of like in the restaurant business, but moved into club promotions and doing some nightlife stuff, which is how we met. And then after I did a little bit of that, I pivoted back into doing both. So I started doing more restaurant management, got into the back room side of restaurants. So that's food and beverage, marketing, working with suppliers and vendors and things like that. I had a short stint in the supplier land. I worked with a beverage brand called SX Liquors. I worked with them for 2 years when Trey Songz had joined on with them and they were doing their brand ambassadorship. And so I had the privilege of being able to lead the sales and rep department for the Southeast region. So like everything in Atlanta, Georgia, even over into Alabama, like we did some things with them. And so that was really like an eye-opening thing to be on that side and to have to actually go to, liquor stores
Yeah.
and venues and work with suppliers and all of that. So it kind of helped expound my knowledge from, I became dealing with it on the restaurant manager side, then dealing with, being a vendor, having to kind of do that thing in reverse. And so like I just got to see different parts of marketing and put decks together and all of that. And as of the pandemic, we started doing independent consulting. Actually, I started an agency about 12 years ago, and I was strictly doing promotions. And then I moved into in 2021, my family and we relocated to Puerto Rico. And during that time, while we were down there, I worked with short-term property rentals. I worked with commercial properties. We worked with different vendors and we worked in a lot of like real estate, kind of like this hybrid thing of just like creating a more personable service. So as we still stayed in hospitality because
Yeah.
we were in the short-term and tourism industry, but we kind of took all of the knowledge from being in the space here in Atlanta and just working back into that. And so like that's what it is. And we've been back here stateside for the holidays and stuff, like visiting. And so I was like, I felt like this would be a perfect time for us to, we've been talking about this for a minute, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that we was able to finally kick this off. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's one of the things I'm gonna really appreciate about this project that we're doing, man. Is one, it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of us wanting to help people, educate people. A lot of times the businesses we help are dreamers. These are entrepreneurs that are still trying to figure it out. And build on the success that they've gotten to thus far. And that's one of the things that, I really appreciate about your story, right? Like when you start talking about your journey and being you have worked with corporate, but you've also worked with the mom and pops, right? So you've seen it from every angle. You've seen it from the vendor side. You've also seen it from, the C-suite side. And so, as we have these conversations and as, these episodes continue to grow, there's a wide range of topics that we'll be able to talk about and resources of knowledge that we'll be able to pull from because of the experience that we've actually had. And that's one of the great things that I'm glad you're able to express to these people because that's the knowledge I don't have, right? And that's the other part that's going to be amazing about this relationship is the yin with the yang. And for those that don't know, my name is James Marquez. I've been in marketing for 20 years. I started in television radio. That's how me and C met. I was doing a radio broadcast, and he was one of the promoters at the club there. And two young hustlers, entrepreneurs. I'm not from Atlanta either, and I moved to Atlanta around the same time. So we just had this instant synergy and connection, and we stayed in contact throughout all the years. I had the opportunity to work on Wall Street for one of the top law firms as the head of marketing. And the reason I got that was because of radio. And so was able to really grow that business hundreds of millions of dollars in cases through different innovative ways of marketing. And one of those was just marketing to the Spanish community. And that's something else again that we'll talk about as we go along, that some of these concepts are so easy that you just miss them because it's that easy, right? Like you would think that living in New York that and half of your customer population or the cases that you get are Spanish people that you would market to a Spanish audience. But a lot of times, businesses, American businesses just forget these things. So anyway, I had a huge dive into the hospitality industry. If you're familiar with Barco, New Jersey. If you're in the East Coast of New York, New Jersey, I'm familiar. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Barco, New Jersey. I was head of marketing there for several years. Went on to do social media director for Lincoln Tech, which is a trade school, a big trade school. Has 21 campuses in 14 states. So I ran all the social media for them. And yeah, so I mean, consulting right now as well. And we're like I said, we're looking to give back with the wealth of knowledge that we have. And with that being said, we're going to jump into the first topic. Our first topic is called Market Watch. And basically, we're going to put you up on trending news within the hospitality industry, things you may have heard of, may not have heard of, and something that, we can dive a little deeper into. So, see, I would love to hear, what you're seeing out there.
So one of the publications that I always try to stay in tune with is Bar and Restaurant Magazine. They do a good job of highlighting not your super high level corporate. They do that as well in within the hospitality industry, but they also do like like kind of what I like to call mid, what I'm saying, mid level.
Hmm.
And so they released an article about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and they spoke with kind of like things that things that businesses would be looking for. And they spoke with this guy named Steve Palmer of Indigo Road Hospitality. So he owns about 50 businesses, kind of mixed and matched between. He owns about, I think, about 15, 20 hotels, about 30 restaurants that's along the Eastern Seaboard. So North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, some here in Atlanta. And so what they were talking about is that they felt that customers in 2025 are going to be looking for a few things, and it is more so about personability. And I think that, the pandemic shifted people into that space. And so he gave away a few points that I wanted to talk about. And so one of them, he was talking about personalizing the guest experiences through gifts and surprises. One of the things that I've noticed with a lot of businesses is they have loyalty programs, but they don't really push them via their social media, and there really isn't any type of ROI on the loyalty program. It's kind of just like a standard thing that everybody sets up and that they don't lean into. And so what Steve was saying is, in using that gift and surprises situation, or using that as a segment of marketing, looking at trying to be more personable and surprising your guests. So if there's a birthday, of course, everybody comes out and sing, they do the birthday cake, etc. But maybe looking at doing something extra with that portion. So like maybe if you have birthday reservations, like working with a local business, doing some gift cards or doing something like that that just adds that little extra touch of like, being seen
Yeah,
because that's a part of it as a customer too, is like you want to be seen. And those are the things that keep your customer retention record. So that
right.
was one. Another one he talked about is taking that same concept and using that with employee management. So you get exercises from an employee management standpoint. And now that was something that to me, it kind of piqued my interest because obviously you have different things. They have bonus structure set up for management, depending on where you are quarterly. They do employee of the month, kind of like these rite of passage things that have been done for the last 15, 20 years or so. And like it's kind of like that's okay. But what he was saying is actually doing that same thing with employees. So let's say your employee had, they didn't have a lot of comps for a pay period or over a week. Let's look at rewarding them for that and just kind of
Right.
taking all these finite things that are points of there can be points of contention, if you will, within the restaurant business or when you're looking at certain things, looking at rewarding your employees on every level. If you know that they have a certain thing going on, if it's their birthday, like looking at them gift cards and just being a little bit more personable, because what he said is that this would the restaurant business is in a place now where it's really the most lucrative that it's ever been, and that essentially, when you think about starving artists, you think about like employees, like you think about people waiting tables because they want to act, or waiting
Mhm.
tables because they want to sing. But what he was saying is that like if you can implement that gift and surprise method and look at maybe holding quarterly what do they call it, quarterly career development spaces, and looking at like doing certain things like promote from within. You can
Yeah,
look at transitioning that from look at shifting your employees from a transition space to a long-term space. That was one. And the last one of the last things that he said that was really smooth is that he talked about looking at food and beverage trends. So, we've been hearing things about Ozempic, vegan mentality is like a thing. And also, what's happening is, and I had seen this in another space on a study a few months back, is that people are now actually drinking a little bit less. So they're not going out and doing as much drinking, especially at the restaurant level. Like that's almost like that's a thing where when you're looking at your crowd that was maybe 25 to 35 a year, 10 years ago, they're moving into this space where they're parents, they're looking at careers and building something long term. So taking all of those things and building that into your offerings. So looking at doing more of a highly curated cocktail menu that's either low alcohol or a mocktail menu, like really focusing more so on that. So that was one of the things he talked about. Another thing he talked about was affordability. So making sure that because everybody now, we're going into a new presidential administration, and as far as like marketing, we've been hearing a lot about economic downturn, inflation, etc. So looking at keeping your prices based on whatever it is that you're offering, like keeping it within an affordability price point. So where you can look at your customers, having a myriad of customers or having a set of customers that will visit you at least once or twice a quarter
yeah,
and then like to help to keep that continuation going. So he had even said for his, because most of your high level restaurants are like leaning more so into the $100 or so per person. Like look at knocking that $40 to $50 down. So looking
yeah,
at doing like a 50 to 60 price range per person. So they'll come visit you more. That'll be more of like a once a month type thing. If it's a
yeah,
family of two,
yeah,
family of four, you're looking at like kind of building that into it. And so
yeah.
like that, those were some really good points that he had.
Yeah, man. It's really interesting, when I hear these big companies and how much detail and seriousness they take their loyalty programs, right? And then you go to some of these local businesses and it's like not even a second thought.
Mhm.
And, what I gather from what you were saying and from, what this CEO is trying to implement or lean into is number one, what a loyalty program does is it allows you to bring in return customers. You know what I mean? At the core, it allows you to incentivize people that have come into your restaurant or your space before and incentivize them to come back again, right? And to be loyal to your business. And that's very underestimated when it comes to when businesses are looking at how can I make more money? They always are thinking about the new customer as opposed to how can I make monies off the customer that I already had. Um, and one of the things that I feel like businesses struggle with when it comes to the loyalty part is the next point that you made, which was the staff, right? Like, how do we get the staff involved and how do we get them to buy into, you know, offering a loyalty program to every table that comes through, right? And how that can benefit them. It blows my mind how um, people, servers, bartenders, like they don't create their own following. They don't create their own community of people, their own customers at the end of the day, right? And having the right management, creating the right loyalty programs, giving the right incentives to your employees makes them raving fans to your business as well too. So not only do you have the loyalty program working for bringing in the old customers back in, it also works because now your employees are raving about your business and they're bringing in people as well too, because it incentivizes them to do that. A business that doesn't incentivize their employees is already a business I know I can help, right?
Right.
I always see it that way. And the last thing you said, that I really want to lean into just a little bit more is the affordability aspect. There are ways to get around the discount, right? Like, 'cause some brands, of the higher tier, they don't want to come across like they're cheap or, like they're offering discounts, but there are ways to bundle to offer packages and also you can do these around your slower times of day, right? So let's say your lunch hour is struggling, maybe that's where you offer that affordable bundle or package, or maybe it's a happy hour time. That again, these are times that you could use the extra income anyway, and it's a great way to start there and incentivize people to come in and to have those types of deals like that. So I thought that was brilliant, and great for the new year too, right? Like, if
Right.
there's ever a time to start that loyalty program, is now with New Year's, because it's one of the biggest times of the year for restaurants and hotels and nightclubs and stuff like that, right? So it's a great way to build your database and really start to get wheels turning for 2025. I
Yeah.
love it. So on my end, on the market watch, I wrote some notes down on my phone. One of the things that I got, and I got this from Travel and Leisure. Well, let me take a step back. I saw it on social media first. That was the first place I saw it. I think it was on like the wealth page or something like that. And then I started to do some more research in it because I thought it was a dope idea. But basically, the concept is ultra luxury lifestyle. Let me start there. Okay, so that's the general concept of what I'm getting ready to pitch. But anyway, there's this company that they're called Blue Floating Solutions. They created a floating paddle court that basically works on the waterfront. And the dope thing about this is it's the goal of this is to bring more profitability to hotels, to waterfront properties. It adds another layer of activity for, let's say you're a marina, right? Well, now you have this floating paddleball court in the water. It doesn't just have to be paddleball. Like, that's the other cool thing about it is that you may have seen a few years ago they play like a basketball game on a ship or something like that. Well, they have that, like a floating basketball court, floating tennis courts, like all type of these floating things that are really cool. Um, and really dope visuals too. So imagine you're out in Miami and you got actually here, I could share. Let me just show you this right quick. It's pretty cool. I'll show this to you guys. One second. So this is it right here. So it's a floating paddle court. And again, the reason why they created this is for the ultra, luxury lifestyle. This is something you could think about. Like, let's say, because that's the other thing too. It's like they create these little boards, like this whole floating structure. This company
Hmm.
creates that, right? So it could be something. Where is it at? It's down here somewhere. They had one where, uh, oh, you know what? I think it's this one here. So they work with a bunch of different companies. So again, like I said, I got the research in this. It's pretty cool because they, like I said, they work with hotels and different places like that. So the cool thing I liked about it is these other structures that it can create with it, right? So let's say you wanted to have a bar, a lounge, a club. This is a nice brunch vibe. Again, we're talking people with a little bit of money, that'll come out and play some paddle ball vibe, and then go in and have lunch or something like that. But again, the really dope idea behind this is providing an opportunity for people that they wouldn't normally have. This is great Instagrammable content, right? Like when people get online, they're going to be taking pictures, they're going to be talking about it. Um, and so, as you think about New Year's Eve and how can you take your brand to another level, think of ultra lifestyle. This is also great for brand activations. Is another one. So, like, think Puma, Adidas, right? Like, to have a paddleball court in the middle of the water with the city behind you, Miami or Spain or something like that. It's a great way to promote your brand, and it's also a great upsell for hotels and waterfront venues and such like that. So, um, anything that can float is really high luxury and something that people should definitely invest in.
Oh yeah, man. I like that. I think too, even between both of the market watches that we both did, I'm seeing like a consistency and personability and like really leaning into whatever level your clientele is. I think that there are ways that you can find these unique niches that you can lean into on whatever tier that you're at as far as like who your target demographic is. And I think that that's what it is. There's a lot of things where it's we've all heard of that term, that the low hanging fruit. And I think that that's one of those things to where when you start to look at hyper personalization from a service offering or being able to offer those things that make you stand out a little bit better, like that helps you in just your overall marketing, but it also helps you in word of mouth. And I think that with the in the social media age, like every company would be wise from their food presentation to the way that they do everything to really move with social media in mind. Because, whereas it had this bad rap starting out when it was just for, amongst people, but now I'm thinking, or I'm seeing, especially post pandemic, all corporate entities at every level and all companies and, service offerings in the hospitality business at every level, they see the need for it. And so, like, that's definitely something that from the marketing side, everybody should be moving in that direction to make things that are more pleasing and more appealing, because that's really where your customers are really your best advertisers. That really is essentially free marketing, free
Yeah,
advertising. So the more that you make it appealing to them and, for them, and we know what that is on the personal side of what it means to be status or to be able to introduce somebody to something new, like they do just do well. You can't go wrong like leaning into something that's both efficient and social media friendly visually to to the general public.
sure. Yeah, man, that's a great point. And I know we'll touch on UGC a lot more, because like you said, that's huge. That's a huge strategy for 2025. So I don't want to, get too much into it, but yeah, you already know I feel that. So we're going to go into our next segment. Our next segment, we're going to be talking about the special sauce, right? And these are just some things that people don't know about. This is some of those secrets and parables that you have to really search for and find. And so, stick around for our next segment, the secret sauce coming your way.